Look, I talk a lot about this. Talk a lot about how narcissistic individuals are emotional 6-year-olds. I remind them, look, if you don't do this work, you're going to lose her. She really is going to be done. Give someone our undivided attention. There's no higher form of love than to show someone our undivided attention.
Greetings, all, and welcome to Living Once Twice, the place where we rewrite narratives, reinvent ourselves, and reimagine our lives. Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. Before we dive in, please be sure to subscribe, leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and also give us a follow on Instagram at Living Once Twice, where you can view more great content and learn about all of our incredible guests, including the guest that I'm going to bring on today, which is Dr. David Hawkins. Dr. Hawkins is a clinical psychologist, best-selling author of When Loving Him is Hurting You, podcaster, and clinical director of the Marriage and Recovery Center and Emotional Institute. With over 40 years of experience, Dr. Hawkins is a leader and expert in helping couples heal marriage wounds and rediscover deeper connection and intimacy. Additionally, Dr. Hawkins has developed one-of-a-kind programs that have helped thousands of people find healing and recovery from narcissism and emotional abuse. You can tune into Dr. Hawkins' Mad in Love podcast, where he, along with his guests, provide insight and practical advice about how to bring health and healing to your relationships. Dr. Hawkins, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Justin, I'm doing great, and thank you for having me. And I'm so glad that we're talking about narcissism and emotional abuse because it's an epidemic, and there are victims of emotional abuse that need to hear what we're saying, and there are perpetrators of narcissistic and emotional abuse that need to hear that there's hope. There's hope to heal. So thank you for having me, and I'm anxious to dive in.
Yes, and I'm just excited and grateful for you and your time. And you kind of hit on the topic that we're going to dive into because that's how I discovered your work. I will have to be the first to admit I have been a perpetrator of narcissistic tendencies and emotional abuse. And it's even kind of a little unsettling to say that about myself, but that was a part of my journey of having to own it and coming across your work as I was trying to discover something I learned from you, not trying to heal it, but training to heal it and become better.
Oh,
Was,
totally. Good.
was diving into
Well
your
done.
Thank you for that. And it's one of these things where when you Google that term, narcissism or narcissist, and you ask and try to learn about how to heal, it's a death sentence. There's no changing of a narcissist. And so you offer some different perspective on that, which we will dive into. And then again, pathways to healing and just additional things people could do to have healthy relationships. And so, Dr. Hawkins, I guess where I want to start is just learning more about your background and what specifically led you to wanting to work with individuals who are either who've experienced narcissism or narcissistic abuse or emotional abuse, but then also those who are willing and looking forward to kind of healing and changing that behavior if they have inflicted that upon another.
Yeah, Justin, thank you. So I've been a clinical psychologist for a long, long, long time. I've counseled for over 40 years. And what I began to discover probably about 10 to 15 years ago, I began to unpack, why are couples, why do they have such difficulty in their relationship? Why is my marriage counseling not more effective? Why are couples divorcing at rapid rate? 50% of couples that marry divorce,
Mm.
and I began asking myself the question, my goodness, is there something else that is going on? And in fact, there is something else that's going on. And what the something else is, Justin, is this issue of narcissism and emotional abuse, which, by the way, a thumbnail sketch, a thumbnail definition of narcissism is profound emotional immaturity and horrific patterns of self-protection, defensiveness, denial, dismissiveness. All right, so if you have this couple and they come to you for counseling and it looks like it's a 50-50 deal, it's a two-way street. It takes two to tango, right? No, it doesn't always take two to tango. Sometimes there's a primary culprit in the relationship. And that primary culprit is the narcissist, the emotional abuser. So when you have patterns of emotional abuse, patterns of domination, dismissiveness, profound defensiveness, profound emotional immaturity, powering over, diminishing others, diminishing another person by your control and domination. When you have those patterns, the problem isn't just communication. It's deeper, it's more serious than that. And so efforts at counselors to just teach communication skills will always be fraught with frustration because there's a deeper issue, the issue of profound selfishness, profound defensiveness, and a lack of ownership of those problems, Justin. So that's what got me into it. And, the more I look for narcissism and narcissistic and emotional abuse, the more I see it. Doesn't mean that I'm seeing something that's not there. What I think it means is I think that we're going to be talking about this not less and less, Justin, more and more. Mark my words, you will see more work coming out. And on a positive note, you're going to see more coming out that says, well, maybe, just maybe, with the right kind of help and the right kind of intervention, if narcissistic abuse and emotional abuse is something learned, it can be unlearned. There can be help for it. So I know what the internet says. The internet says no way, nothing, no hope. It's crazy, Justin. It's crazy wrong because my programs are filled with men who are training to overcome emotional abuse and filled with women who want to stay married to these men and they want to see it work. So that's how I got into it, and it's an exciting field, and I think it can be filled with hope, actually.
And Dr. There's so much that I want to honor and of what you shared and kind of go deeper in, because again, you offer hope. And I love that you're talking about how like this isn't something we're going to see less of, but more of, and continuing to learn
Absolutely.
more about the process of treatment. I want to go back to just the term, because you talked about, I guess, helping people to understand as you define narcissism. Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it a combination of both? Like, how does one become so self-centered, so dismissive? Like, how do those behaviors and just how does one form and become a narcissist?
It's not nature. It's not biochemical. There's nothing that we can find that says this is a biochemistry component to this. That's not that. It is. Look, I talk a lot about this. I talk a lot about how narcissistic individuals are emotional 6-year-olds. And the women that are married to them say, oh man, Dr. Hawkins, 6-year-old, you nailed it. This is a little boy that I am relating to. I mean, he's a big boy in the work field. He's a big boy in sports. He's a big boy in lots of different ways. Emotionally, no way. No, he pouts, he withdraws, he does everything, sir, everything that my 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds do. Now, with my 6-year-old, this is the woman talking, with the 6-year-old, I know he or she's going to grow out of it. And so I can tolerate it. I discipline them, and they grow up, they mature. But my husband, and I'm talking about the gender men, there can be women narcissists, but by and large, it's men. These men are emotionally regressed. And it is nature, Justin. They haven't grown up. Now, this is no surprise. Justin, if you ask the average man, how many books on emotional maturity have you read? Oh, none, huh? Mm-hmm. Well, I read a couple of chapters. Oh, how much time have you spent in counseling, learning to grow up, learning how to be mature, learning how to relate effectively? Oh, not very many. Oh, you've gone 4 different times, but you've dropped out each time after you heard something you didn't want to hear. Oh, really? How many books has your wife read on emotional relationships? Oh, 107. Oh, let me get it straight here now. She's read 107. You've read none. Now, Justin, we can smile at this, we can laugh about it, but it's all true. I have to challenge men to get involved in good depth counseling where they will learn to grow up, where they will learn about their shadow side. They'll learn, what am I really like in the recesses of my life behind closed doors? Because here's one of the differentiators, Justin, between narcissistic abuse and emotional abuse. Everybody knows when a narcissist walks into a room. They're full of themselves. They suck all the air out of the room. They talk about themselves. They're braggadocious. They're full of themselves. And we see them coming. We go like, oh man, not Joe again. Here's, not Judy, not whoever. But the emotional abuser, Justin, well, they're nice guys. They're nice people. They're pastors. They're leaders. They're community involved. But behind closed doors, emotional 6-year-olds, powering over, dominating, pouting, withdrawing into silence, stonewalling, talking over, becoming defensive, easily irritable, easily wounded. But you wouldn't know that in the work setting. It doesn't show up there. Who gets the brunt of his really bad behavior? One person. Not so with the narcissist. The narcissist, everybody feels his or her bad behavior. The emotional abuser, one person gets it. And you know who that is, Justin. It's the spouse. So there you have it. There's a differentiator and some definitions for us to go by.
No, with you kind of planting that seed of that emotional immaturity and that stunted nature. And I appreciate that you also talked about, like, it could be, it could be any gender, but it sounds like for a majority of the work that you're seeing, it is men. And I think it's really good for us to kind of put that in that container in this conversation. And as you were starting to kind of talk about that experience of the partner, the one who is getting the brunt of this treatment and of this behavior, some people would say then to you, Dr. Hawkins, well, then why don't they leave? And I've heard in some of your work, you talk about how it's easier said than done. Like, what do you find tends to be some of the reasons that it is difficult for someone who's in, whether it's in a relationship with a narcissist or someone who is emotionally abusive, to leave that type of dynamic, to free themselves from that type of dynamic, when some people on the outside might be thinking that, oh, this should just be as clear as day for you to decide to pack your bags and leave?
Justin, I have such strong feelings about this topic, and my strong feelings are these, Justin. I think it's frankly ridiculous to ask a 50-year-old woman. By the way, the average age of the woman who calls the Marriage Recovery Center Emotional Abuse Institute, the average age, which might surprise you, the average age is 45 to 50 to 55 years old. All right, what does that tell you? That tells me that the average phone, and we get dozens and dozens and dozens of phone calls every month of people inquiring, women inquiring and asking for help. It's ridiculous for me to ask the question, why haven't you left? This 50-year-old woman has been married 25 years to this man. She's got 3 adult children. She's got 7 grandchildren. They've built a life together. Every time she has pulled back and said, well, maybe I should leave. Yeah, no. But he's got some good qualities to him. I love him. I'm married to him. I'm intricately bound to him. It's stupid, frankly, Justin, to ask the question, why don't you just leave? That's what the internet would say. Like, oh, come on, there's no hope. Get out. It's far easier said than done. She's not going to just leave. She's intricately bound to this man, and she loves him, and he's not all bad. Please, everybody, grab a hold of that notion. Remember that the average emotional abuser has positive traits too. And he can be caring and he can be kind. Can he love maturely? No, he cannot love maturely, but he can love. He's got some loving traits. So anyway, does she need to pull back? She does. Does she need to get expert help? She does. Does an intervention need to take place in this 25-year marriage? It does. And I encourage definite intervention. I encourage disruption of these abusive relationships. So I'm not at all telling a woman, oh, come on, just stay and pray. It'll all be fine. It won't all be fine. It will not. There is real trouble in paradise. And so there needs to be disruption. There needs to be intervention. But please, anybody who is trying to help this woman and this man, don't just say, why don't you just leave? That's hyperbole. That's hype. That's internet. It's not reality. Might she get done, D-O-N-E, at some point? She might. Marriages end as a result of chronic, long-standing emotional abuse. But, and I'll stop with this, Justin, I love this phrase: the past is the best predictor of the future unless there's been an intervention or significant intervention. And then the future doesn't have to look anything like the past. How do we know this? Look at alcohol intervention, alcohol abuse intervention. Look at drug abuse intervention. Look at sexual addiction intervention. Look at food addiction intervention. We're an addicted society, but when there's intervention, strategic, skilled intervention, lots of change is possible.
And Doctor, I appreciate that you explain how this is nuanced. I mean, it's eye-opening to hear that you say like the average age or age range is between 45 and 50. And yeah, I mean, that's a lot of years, a lot of experiences, memories made. And so there's a lot of attachment here of why one wouldn't want to just end their relationship, even knowing that there is damage being done to their health and their mental well-being, emotional well-being. And so I guess the golden question as we try to kind of pivot here, and again, I know there's circumstances that you talked about where people do need to leave. But then for those who want to, again, save the relationship, save the marriage, like that golden question is, okay, well, can a narcissist change? And if so, how? And you start to talk about that there needs to be help and intervention. And so I was wondering, could you just kind of share more of like in your work, what has that looked like for the couple that is looking to go and walk this path?
Yeah, it requires very, very strategic, very skilled intervention and very skilled counseling, Justin, as you might imagine. So I did a YouTube video 6 months ago, and I said something like this, Justin. I said, don't send him to counseling, please. Now, what did I mean? I was being a little provocative. It won't work to send an emotional abuser to traditional counseling. Traditional counseling, when you walk in the door and you're greeted by a compassionate, caring person, and they say, what would you like to talk about today? Now, the emotional abuser is not going to walk in the door and say, well, what I'd like to talk about is the holy heck that I put my wife through yesterday when I pouted and I angrily dominated her, and then I dismissed her and I slammed the door, and then I didn't talk to her. He's not going to share that stuff. And the typical counselor isn't going to know to say, wait a minute, what are you really like on your worst day? Oh, I tend to get a little angry. Oh, you mean you rage? Well, no, I get a little angry. I get passionate. Oh, no, you mean you rage then. You dominate. You pummel her with argumentative. Okay, anyway, unless it is a skilled clinician who knows about this issue of arrogance and superiority and prickly defensiveness and dominating with dismissiveness, unless the clinician knows all about that stuff, then the emotional abuser, the narcissist, is going to be able to overly please and ingratiate that clinician to them, and real work won't get done. And the spouse will end up saying, it didn't work. All right, so what does work? I'm gonna promote myself here, and that is that I've developed a 3-tiered treatment program, 14 weeks in our basic core program where men learn how to take ownership. I just finished a group literally 20 minutes ago, half an hour ago, and one of the men in the group said, I will always be in recovery for being an emotional abuser. Now, think of those words. I am a recovering emotional abuser. That's what men need to learn to say. Just like they need to say, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm a recovering drug addict. I can't be around drugs anymore. I can't drink anymore, whatever. All right. Men learn how to take ownership for the many, many, many ways that they have been abusive in our basic 14-week program. Then they move into our 14-week advanced core program. Then they move into a 6-month core strength program. Add that all up, 6 months, 14 weeks, 14 weeks. It's a year. And I have many men, Justin, who do groups again and again and again, because these are characterological issues. These are character patterns, this profound emotional immaturity, this profound patterns of self-protection, this brittle defensiveness, this argumentativeness, this refusal to own what's really going on. That has got to be challenged again and again and again and again. But it can be challenged again and again. And men who start off in our program by saying, I really don't need to be here. She told me I had to be here, or she's leaving me and I'm angry about it. They learn over time to go, it's probably good that I'm here. And then ultimately they get to a point where they say, I am glad I'm here. Sign me up for the next group. I see it all the time. And I'm trying to put the word out there on the internet that, come on, don't believe everything that you hear where there's no hope available. There is hope and there is help available.
Wow. I want to kind of go through a couple things here. First of all, you talking about how this for men, they need to understand this is a lifelong process of working on.
Yep.
It's not you sign up for the 14-week course and then you're done and you're healed. I don't know if you have to deal with a lot of men thinking this is a one and a done, but you sharing with men, and it kind of reminds me of AA, that this is a lifestyle that you're now walking the path on.
Totally. It is a lifestyle. These are patterns of behavior that have been practiced again and again and again. And so, the reason I came up with the profound emotional immaturity, patterns of self-protection, underlying attitudes of arrogance, a lack of empathy. Now, let me say those 4 things again, because, Justin, I'm asked the question, how can he treat me like this when he says he loves me? And I have many people who say, he's trying to harm me. Are there men out there trying to harm their mates? Of course there are. Are most of them, however, caught up in, a fish is the last one to see the water. An emotional abuser is the last one to see his patterns of emotional abuse. How can that be that he can be so blinded to his patterns of emotional abuse? I'm going to give you 4 reasons. 1, lacking in empathy. And empathy, by the way, thank God, empathy can be learned. But these men lack empathy. They lack a sensitivity and emotional intelligence, the ability to read the room. Joe, you don't just say what you just said. I can't believe. Okay, anyway, lacking in empathy. Profound emotional immaturity. These are 6-year-olds that need to grow up, and they can. profound attitudes of self-protection. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. It wasn't that bad. It was her. I'm not that wrong. I'm getting a raw deal. I'm the victim here. Profound, entrenched attitudes of self-protection that have to be dismantled. And then lastly, actually, I'm going to give you 5. Fourth is an underlying attitude of superiority. And then 5, a lack of dedication to change. Guys, don't sign up for my group just because I want you to sign up for the group. Sign up because you need it. You need to be reading these books. You need to be with other men who are growing and changing. You need it. And I'm telling you, God is my witness. If you don't do it, you will regress, you will relapse, and you will be in more serious trouble. And your wives will be calling me going, Dr. Hawkins, please help. I want you to save your marriage. So anyway, a lack of dedication to change, an underlying attitude of superiority and arrogance, an attitude of self-protection, emotional immaturity, and lacking in empathy. You put all those together, Justin, and that's how someone can be abusive without trying to be abusive. They didn't wake up in the morning and say, I think I'll just be an emotionally abusive individual. It comes tragically naturally.
And thank you for just sharing those blind spots, Dr. Hawkins, that can lead to this path of causing hurt and harm in the relationship. And just going back to someone even getting into this type of this healing and this type of treatment, you talked about sometimes the partner will maybe bring this up and want their partner to go. But how does one have that conversation? Because there are going to be 2 parts of this. I mean, I do want to talk about the ownership of the perpetrator. But if you do have someone who's listening and they're like, well, I really would like for my partner to engage in this type of treatment. Maybe they've done it before, but they've only noticed change for a short period of time and then they haven't gone back. So It's like, what do you offer to someone on like, what's the approach that you've seen that's worked effectively to getting their partner in the treatment? Is it the threatening to leave? Is there a certain type of other angle that you would recommend they take?
Justin, I wish I had a very simple recipe for what you just asked. I don't, Justin. It requires an intervention. I can always tell. I'm going to give you 3 stages that I've seen in women callers. 3 stages. And there's not right or wrong. I've just seen 3 stages. First stage, many callers of women who call and they say, oh man, I'm really unhappy. I really want my husband to go to counseling, but he resists and he refuses, and I'm just not sure what to do. Fair enough. Second stage, a woman has advanced to a more serious stage when I get this call. You know, Dr. Hawkins, I'm really getting close to being fed up. I'm ready for an intervention. I it scares the daylights out of me, but I can't keep living like this. I am ready. Please give me some materials. And fantastic. And then you can guess where the last stage is. The last stage is the caller, and the woman says, I'm there. I am there, Dr. Hawkins. Walk me through the intervention. Let's fill out the intervention letter that I'm going to give to my husband. I am ready to say to him, he must enter your program now. He doesn't have to. If he doesn't want to, it's okay. But if he doesn't, I'm leaving. I am done. I will not live like this anymore. All right, now, there's not a right or a wrong to any of those stages, though obviously the woman who says, I won't live like this anymore, it really sends a powerful message to the man. And Justin, this may or may not surprise you, but 99% of men will ultimately respond effectively to an intervention. Why? They love this woman. They're married to this woman. They have a house. They got a mortgage. They've got a bank account. They have 3 children. They have 2.5 children. Maybe that's more like it. Anyway, I don't know what they have, but they're involved in church. They're involved in the community. He has got a lot to lose, and he needs to be risked in losing that. Now, I want to tell you one more thing. I wish I came up with this quote. Here's a quotable quote for you and all of our listeners. One of the women recently who is in that last stage, and I was privy, I sat in on this marriage session where the woman was at the end of her rope, and she said this quote, and I wrote it down, and I love it. And I wish I could tell you I made it up. I didn't. She made it up, or she heard it. She said to her husband, here's the deal. You have a problem, and I have a problem with your problem. One more time. You have a problem, and I have a problem with your problem. And if you don't get help for it, I am going to an attorney to file for divorce. One more time with the quote, because it's so important, Justin. What it says so clearly, there's an order to the way treatment must happen. You have a problem, sir. I wish you didn't, but you do. You have a problem, and I have a problem with your problem. So all of my reactivity, do I have things to work on? For sure. But by and large, my problems are because of your problem. And if you don't take care of it, we can't get anywhere. So it's a little bit like if you're married to an alcoholic, a drug addict, a sexual addict. Are those problems mutually derived? They are not. They are not mutually derived. No, the spouse of the alcoholic would be right to say to their mate, you have a problem. And all of my reactivity is to your problem. And if you don't get help with that problem, we can't even get to our other communication problems or conflict resolution problems or the problems we have with our 16-year-old, or those are all real, they are, but your alcoholism, your emotional abuse, your drug addiction must be taken care of first. And then we can get, and then I'm happy to hear any concerns you have about my spending on Amazon or whatever it is you have an issue with. But for now, all we can talk about, for now, all I'm willing to talk about, this is the woman saying this, here's all I'm willing to talk about. So figure it out. You decide what you want to do. But you have a problem, and I have a problem with your problem. And if you can't do that, tell me you can't do it, and you're going to hear from my attorney. If you want to walk through this door, Dr. Hawkins and his team are willing to talk with you, and we will figure out the next best steps. All right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Justin?
I think it's unfortunate that and again, there's a duality to it and the wife in this case to have to get to the point where they have to create almost kind of like an ultimatum on it. But that
is an ultimatum
of
totally
what you're
an ultimatum.
The pain, the trauma, the hurt, the harm that they're causing of not taking ownership of their problem. And then again, self-disclosure on my part. I unfortunately was the one I sabotaged because I didn't want to take ownership of my problem. Yeah. A great relationship. Yeah. And so then it was kind of like, okay, now I need to address these blind spots on my own. But I'm hoping through our conversation, we could save marriages and couples. And again, the ones who are perpetuating these type of behaviors and immaturity to address their problem. And then I guess that's the next part that I want to talk about. So when you have that person who's like, okay, maybe the light bulb goes on and they're like, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to lose my great partner. How do you, because who wants to own the fact that they're being immature, they're gaslighting? How do you start to walk someone through owning that without them becoming defensive and then either shutting down, withdrawing, or just giving up completely? Like what's been your experience with men who who are willing to go on this journey, but then you have to kind of walk them through some of the realities of their behavior and the impact that it's had on their partner, and having them own that.
Well, yeah. Again, Justin, it's I'm threading a needle as a clinician. I don't want to humiliate anybody. I don't want to. I don't want to take away their hope. But I want to. It's threading a needle. I remind them, look, if you don't do this work, you're going to lose her. She really is going to be done. I have a colleague. I have several colleagues. I have several women colleagues that work with the victims, and they remind me. They say, David, this is true. I mean, you don't see it very often, Dr. Hawkins, because I see mostly women who want to hang in there, but they will get done. They will. Their emotional abuse creates death. It does. And are there marriages that can be brought back to life? They can be. But so I say to him, when you ask the question, Justin, how do I do it without raising defenses? I don't. There's no way to do it without raising defenses. I have so many men angry with me. So many men angry with me. So many. But I just say, look, you can get angry with me. I'm really trying to help you. I know I'm hurting you. I know that. I'm telling you that you're immature. I'm telling you that you're defensive. I'm telling you that you're wrong. I'm telling you that you've got to get comfortable with the word emotional abuse. And he looks at me and he says, I don't want to use the word abuse. I don't. No. I'm not. She's abusive too. I don't want to use the abuse word. We're going to use the word abuse. We're going to do it. So come on, put your big boy pants on. Let's do this. We got a marriage to save. And anyway, he gets comfortable with this. He can see my heart. I'm not doing this to make money. It's my living, of course, but I really do have a passion for this. And I can see that there's only one way through it, and it's through it. Come on. If the man who rages, I've got one man. There's a man who I'm thinking about, and this is many men who say, yeah, no, I don't want to use the word rage. I want to just say that I'm passionate. I'm intense. No, you're argumentative. You're dominating. She's exhausted. Well, I don't really want to look at it that way. Well, you need to look at it that way. She's really getting done. By the way, and I'll stop with this too, Justin. Every woman, I cannot tell you how many times I've sat with a woman and the woman has done this. I'm going to be a little theatrical. It might be in a couples session and she bows her head and she just goes quiet and maybe starts to sob. And I say, what's the matter? And she says, I'm just so tired. This is so difficult. I am weary. I've coached him. I've given him books. I've made counseling appointments for him. I've outlined again and again and again and again what needs to change. And he comes back and says, I don't know what you're really asking for. You don't know what I'm asking for. You have 10 letters in your drawers that I've written to you. 10 different therapists have told you what I'm asking for. And you don't know what I'm asking for. I can't help you anymore. Anyway, and so I have so many men. These are patterns of denial, Justin, patterns of self-protection. So is there a way that I can talk to them without raising their hackles? There is not.
I think you
do they need to decide? Do they need to decide, do they want my help? You know, the title of my next book, I've written 40 books or 42, I don't know how many numbers, 42 books. I'm just on the verge of publishing my 43rd. And the title is, So You've Been Called a Narcissist. Now what? Come on, let's get it going. Come on. You've been called worse things than this. Let's, this isn't a mountain that you can't climb.
Mm.
You need to grow up, and I'll talk you through how to grow up. You need to give up self-protection. We'll talk about that. You need to give up your defensiveness. We can talk about that. You need to take ownership for the ways that you're still harming her. This is not rocket science. And it's not all that, it doesn't have to be all that difficult. Once you kind of settle in and say, okay. So that's what needs to happen, Justin.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for you being just honest and transparent. Those who want to save their relationship and want to grow up, it's going to be uncomfortable. You have to own the behavior. You have to own the hurt and the harm you've caused and be accountable for that. And again, I want to take the weight and the pressure off of the partner for doing this work and really shift to the perpetrator. But I want to talk about accountability here, because I've also heard you talk about men keeping each other accountable. And I know you do this in groups. And so I would love to hear just your take on how do more men continue to help each other to grow up and keep each other accountable. And do you find that there's a certain way that this is done in your groups that's also led to some growth in individuals?
Totally. Yeah, totally. But the whole topic of accountability is a misunderstood and misrepresented topic, because many men will say, I have accountability. And I say, oh, really? Tell me about that. Well, yeah, I go to a Bible study group once a week, and I got a best buddy that I shoot hoops with, and he knows some of the stuff I'm dealing with, and I say, I doubt it. I doubt it. I just doubt it. And then when I talk to them more and more, Justin, I find out they have friendships. Men have friendships, but they don't really have accountability partners. They don't really have someone who knows what they're really like on their worst day. There's a good homework assignment, by the way. What do you like on your worst day? Now, I know what you're like on your best day. I like you. By the way, I like the men in my program. They're all likable. I genuinely like them. But I have them talk about what are they like on their worst day, and then have they translated that into a relationship where this person, probably not a friend, by the way. So this is tough to find a real accountability partner, because an accountability partner is going to say, wait a minute, I know you have patterns of stonewalling. Tell me the last time you stonewalled your wife. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I really have. I'm not sure. Bull. Come on. I know you stonewall. It's got to be someone who drives in, who leans in and says, come on, I'm a stonewaller. You can't stonewall a stonewaller. You can't BS a BSer. Come on. So an accountability partner, yeah, my groups are very unique. They know it. They can listen to, that's minimization. That's rationalization. That's justification. That's sanitization. That's blame shifting. That's playing the victim. They have to be called out on all of those things again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Because I'm going to teach one more thing real quick, like here, Justin. There's a notion called the maze of confusion that my colleague Annette Altman's derived. The maze of confusion goes like this. Let me describe a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is when you come to me with a concern and I listen intently. I empathize with your concern. I validate your concern. There's mutual understanding. And within 7 minutes, we arrive at a conclusion and an agreement, and we both feel wonderful. Now let me describe the maze of confusion. She comes to him with a problem about him. Oh, now he goes, wait a minute. No, I don't remember that. No, you're the one who did that. It wasn't a Tuesday, it was a Thursday. $29.95? I don't think so. I think it was $10.95. oh, no, nah, da, ba, ba, rationally, just, and pretty soon she's grabbing her head. No issue can be resolved effectively. So he has got to be held accountable for the ways that he confounds, confuses, disturbs, disrupts his mate so that she can't really resolve any concern with him. You can hear, Justin, as I can, this all requires expert help. By the way, if you can't figure this out, my work can be exhausting at times. It really is challenging, and I'm not liked by everybody because it is hard, hard, hard work. But it can be done, and health can be arrived at when these individuals really do the serious and hard work.
Yeah, no, this is great to hear. Like, you got to even step outside your comfort zone when it comes to finding an accountability partner. And sometimes it could be
Yep.
in that group with other strangers, but men who can see through your BS to call you, having someone who's trained and professionally trained in doing this to kind of see through your BS. And I think that's really and critically important, because I agree. I know for myself, I was doing a lot of surface level healing, but I wasn't getting into changing, again, the behaviors that were causing the hurt and causing the harm, or having folks around me that could go to that I know would check me on that. And that's a part of my own ownership that I've had to take. And so just left before
Good for you.
Well,
yep.
Your progress here, but I'm learning from like others like yourself of this is the lifelong work that I have to, again. And I love that difference. If you don't mind, I guess, speaking about that difference of, people will say that I'm going to try to work on myself versus training to work on yourself. Like, you've pointed that out, and I just don't know if there's anything, I guess, yeah, if you could just speak more about that difference and how important that difference is. Training versus
yeah. Oh, it's a critical concept, Justin, because trying implies an ineffective effort. It's ineffective. It's a half measure at an unclear goal. I think I'm gonna lose a little bit of weight this next year. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, because you're thinking about, probably it's an ineffective effort at an unclear goal, non-specified, as opposed to training. Oh man, training, we set up all kinds of habit patterns around that goal. We have accountability. We've set up a clear target of what we're changing, and then we've got little mini goals all around that goal. So in other words, the man who's going to overcome emotional abuse, he's learned to identify all of the ways that he is emotionally abusive. He is in counseling with other men and with someone who will hold him accountable. His mate knows what to look for as far as relapse. Man alive, there's an earnest effort with a very clear goal, and he has made it part of his life's work. And so notice the man who says, I'm a recovering emotional abuser, and I'm going to let people know that. Let me give you an analogy out of my own life. I've been taking piano lessons for 7 years now, every week. I'm a piano player. I am a piano player. I'm a piano learner. I'm also a tennis learner. I'm also a Spanish learner. I'm in training with my tennis. I'm in training with my Spanish, and I'm in training to be a healthier husband. I'm not trying to be a healthier husband. I'm in training. I have goals set up for being a healthier husband. I go to counseling periodically to be a healthier husband. I'm in training. It is serious. I'm going to be a better tennis player. I'm becoming a better tennis player, a better Spanish learner, a better piano player, a better husband. That's the deal. So we can be in training or we can be trying. Choose very carefully.
Yeah, no, that was like a light bulb went on of like, oh yeah, trying lets me off the hook a little bit. It fits in a little bit
You
of room
bet it
for error.
does.
But when you train, it's like, oh no, there's like, I gotta own this. I gotta be accountable. I have to have a plan and a system in place to keep myself going towards that goal, towards that target. And you were speaking about, before we get into the each one teach one, you were speaking about just becoming a healthier partner and creating a healthier relationship, because I feel like that is the end goal. And as I've learned in reading different books, like your responsibility as a partner is you're responsible for that other person's well-being as well, whether you want to accept that or not. And so there's this
Totally.
wonderful acronym, Dr. Hawkins, that you have about building a deeper relationship with your partner through attune. And I was wondering if you could just share what attune means and just advice that you would offer for folks about how to create a healthier relationship with their partner, if that's one of their 2024 goals.
Yeah. So even the word attune is a beautiful word, and it's something that we all should be undertaking, tuning in to our mate and watching the nuances of the relationship. My wife's name is Christy. What does Christy need today? What does she need today that's different than what she needed yesterday? What will she need tomorrow that's different? So, anyway, the acronym ATTUNE. A, attend to. Give someone our undivided attention. There's no higher form of love than to show someone our undivided attention. Attend. Tune in. Tune in to the nuances of what this person is going through. Tolerate discomfort. There's going to be times. I'm married. I've been married for a long time. There's times that Christy is unhappy with me. Hard to believe, I know, but it is true. It is totally true. And I need to tolerate that discomfort. Attend, tune in, tolerate. You understand. Understand. Oh my goodness. Understand her. Stand under her. Nurture. 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 My wife needs my care and my attention and my nurturance, my compassion. And then E is empathize. So attend, tune in, tolerate distress, understand, nurture, and empathize. And if you do all of those things, put them all together, you're going to have a pretty doggone dynamic and incredible relationship.
Thank you. Thank you for going through that, Dr. Hawkins. I really appreciate it, because when I heard that, I was like, oh, I got to ask him to share this, because I found that as a great tool and concept to like check into. And it's something that I kind of a daily basis and use as just as great framework of continuing to just train myself and being a healthier and supportive partner. And so I guess what I want to do is I want to transition to our each one teach one section. So these are just 4 rapid fire questions for you, Dr. Hawkins. So are you ready for the first one?
Go for it.
All right. So what is one book or even podcast that you would recommend that has been a game changer for you in your journey?
Oh my goodness. You know, I teach a lot out of the book Nonviolent Communication. I love nonviolent communication. I love not in a nutshell. Nonviolent communication means to listen empathetically, to listen without judgment, to speak without judgment, and to learn how to speak emotionally to your mate. And so it's been a game changer for me. So I really love the book Nonviolent Communication.
Great.
Dr. Rosenberg, by the way. Yeah.
That's a new one there, so I appreciate you sharing that with the audience. So the next question for you is, what's one habit or practice that has been impactful for you in your lifestyle design?
Oh my goodness. One journaling, I would say. Journaling. I'm a long time journaler, and I really value sitting quietly, reflecting on my thoughts, being aware of what my thoughts are, what my patterns are, and journaling becomes a prayer life for me. I sit with my journal and I reflect and I pray, and it's just been really, really powerful for me.
And are you like a morning journaler, an evening? What does your practice look like?
Often in the evening, often at the end of the day, kind of doing it. I call it an after action, Justin, thinking through how was this day? Did I live intentionally? Did I live cohesively? I mean, did everything I do fit in with where I'm trying to get to? So I've got one, I'll give you one more habit. Sticky notes. I
Yes.
have sticky notes all over my desk, to keep myself
I'm right there with
follow
you.
through with this, follow through with that, do this, do that.
Good.
All
Wonderful.
right.
So our next one for you is, what's a law or a policy that you would create that we would all have to abide to?
Kindness.
Mm.
Kindness. We have to be kind. I just value kindness. And I'm kind of a bleeding heart. I don't say that in a negative or a sappy way, but just, my wife, by the way, my wife exceeds me in kindness. She is the woman who, when you're going through a checkout line, she's going to ask you about your tattoos. She's going to do it. Right then, right there, bagging up our potatoes and our broccoli, she's going to ask you, tell me about your tattoo. Or those are beautiful glasses. Or, like, Christy, we got to move through this line. No, no, no. She's going to show kindness. And I love that. And I show kindness too. But anyway, that ought to be legislated. You have to be kind.
I love
Yes.
that one. That's a great one. And so our final one for you, Dr. Hawkins, is this season is all about personal responsibility. And so what's one lesson about taking ownership of your life that was important for you to become who you are today?
Oh, my goodness. It would have to do with my marriage. It has to do with with a life lesson. Again, it has to do with kindness, and it has to do with, I can get wrapped up in doing my own thing, and my wife can get lost in the shuffle, and I have to repeatedly come back to her, come back to her, come back to her. Don't. All of this stuff is important, but it's not as important as making sure that she and I are inextricably bound together. This is it. I can have a podcast or a book or a this or a that or something else. But man, if she gets lost in the shuffle, I'm not a happy camper. She's not a happy camper. So stay connected to my wife and listen to her. I have a saying that I say to the men, and maybe gets to the point. One of the sayings I say to the men is, what I've discovered, men, is our wives are probably right and they can be trusted. And I think about that with Christy. In all matters, if she's got an opinion, she's probably right and she can be trusted. Is she always? No, she's not always right. But more often than not, I can cast my vote that way and I'm going to be in good shape. She's probably right and she can be trusted. She's my helpmate.
Oh,
There you go.
I love that. I love you leaving us with that one, Dr. Ron. This is a great reminder there. And so I guess the last question is just, what is next for you, Dr. Hawkins? Where can people go to find out more and learn about all of the great offerings that you provide?
Yeah, our website, www.marriagerecoverycenter.com. And we're launching a whole new program called the Emotional Abuse Institute. And we're going to be speaking more and more on this topic of narcissism and emotional abuse. And I'm writing more about it. And so, but go to our website, the marriagerecoverycenter.com. It will talk about our 3-tiered men's program. It will talk about our redeemed women's program. We consider ourselves to be the leading authority in the treatment of narcissism and emotional abuse. And as you indicated earlier today, Justin, there's not much hope available out there. We offer hope, and we offer lots of it.
Great, and thank you for all the links that you shared. I'll be sure to include in the show notes, Dr. Hawkins. And again, I just want to thank you for your time, for your contribution to the world, to men like myself who are just training to become better, to hear from our narcissistic tendencies and emotional abusive ways, so that we can become healthier and just positive partners, healthier partners for ourselves, for others. And again, the work that you're doing is causing and creating that impact and offering that pathway and guidance for men to become that. And it just can't thank you enough again for just your time and all your work.
Well, and thank you for having me, but you keep with it, sir. So good on you to be recovering yourself. So kudos to you. Keep it going.
Yeah, appreciate that. I'll be continuing to tune into all your work, and I can't wait for that book to come out.
All right.
We'll continue
You
to keep
got it.
my training moving forward. And so, folks,
we'll get you that book. We'll get you the book.
Awesome. I appreciate that so much. It means a lot to me.
We'll get you the book.
So
we'll get you the book.
That is it for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in and your presence. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to share the Living Once Twice podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, leaving us a review on Spotify and iTunes and YouTube, reaching out to you all through the time and the space that separates us to say, remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it. You deserve it. Catch you later on Living Once Twice.